It's wonderful to be in Puglia, and it's a fantastic opportunity and a wonderful invitation to be here in the companionship of Dep Art Out and WHATIFTHEWORLD. And it is with delight that I'm able to show some interesting work that has been produced over the last few months. As a painter, I work in the stillness of a studio, and very often it is a quiet space of contemplation. It's a subjective space. I'm on my own. But then the work leaves the studio and it enters the context of a gallery. And it's a wonderful opportunity to shift that space into a place like the Trullo here in Puglia. So the work is a nomadic work. It started off as a 90-meter long canvas that was put up in my studio in Cape Town. And it involved a very slow percolation over time. I like to work with certain kind of quiet spaces and concepts. And the painting becomes, in a certain sense, a literalization of a very private, very quiet conceptual process. Of course, the result is always in a mark. It is a tracing of the mind, what I would like to perhaps call a wandering mind, and a thinking tongue, a way of kind of quieting down in the studio and letting the thoughts wander and flow out onto the canvas. Yes, the Trullo is a very special structure as a kind of a conical dry stone assembly. It is something that talks about human connection and human hands. It is something that had been slowly built up over time into a structure for occupation, for shelter, but also then the association that we have with the Trullo as a space that we enter to get shelter away from the sun, away from the coldness of winter times. There's something about it that, to me, it symbolizes a nest or a cave or a safe space for the human body. And one of the aspects that really stood out to me about the Trullo is that it's really like an imagining of the inside of the body. And for me, that kind of inside of the body is perhaps a kind of a philosophical, phenomenological space of the quiet self, a place that can be filled with thoughts and with ideas. I start as with the text on the top left corner, and then the line will follow through, following the terrain of the canvas as a kind of a color optic surface. The line traverses it as if it is a tracer of the eye or the mind, and it follows the flow of the cloth. And when I reach the end of the canvas, the line follows back, tracing its previous line back to the beginning of the text. So it's very closely linked to an act of, I would say, ploughing the earth. As we follow the flow of the surface, it kind of, in a simple way, simulates the flow, following the flow of the land when we work the land. So there's essentially to this work a very strong textual aspect, but a very strong connection to landscape itself. And in addition then, with this fantastic space that I find the work in, there is this awareness that we till the earth, we work the land. Every stone, every bit of earth and plant and demarcation in the landscape tells us a story about how we occupy the world, how we write the story of this world. So the painting, in a very simple sense, follows through with that very simple act of thinking about where we are and how we fill those spaces. The word inhabitation has an inherent reference to how we fill spaces, how we curl up in spaces. And I have a very strong interest in how spaces are filled either with surface or, in this case, with a nomadic surface. The scroll is a very interesting metaphor. It is something that is at the same time ergonomic because we can hold it in our hands, but also it refers to a distance much larger than that distance between the two hands. It is a kind of a metaphor of distance in a contained form. And historically, the image of the scroll in art is often used as a metaphor of voice, of message, of some sort of connection with the world. We throw our voices out into the world and we pull back in dialogue. And the question that I ask as a painter dealing with a very pure abstract conceptual process is, what are those voices? What is that voice that never leaves the mouth, that remains as something quite abstract? And what happens when we fill that space with a visualization or the metaphor of voice and allow it to inhabit a space as if it is a kind of bodily structure? What is that voice that never really leaves the lips but hangs in that space, that curls up and inhabits the space like a thought?